Hey guys, long time no see. I miss you all so much. I seriously wish I was in the classroom right now. I'm going to demo calzones for you because I talk about them all the time and how they're the students' probably one of the favorite recipes besides potato soup. So I'm going to show you how to do it. So I'm starting out with the white bread recipes. So if you're looking under the files on the teams, the recipes are all there. And so the white bread is the same recipe that I use for the dough for the calzone. So you can use it for a loaf of white bread if you want, or you can use it for the calzone dough. So I'm starting out with that. I already forgot that I'm actually doubling the recipe, so I'm already messing up here. So you need 1 1/8 cup of water. So 1/8 of a cup isn't going to show up on your measurement as 1/8 of a cup, but it's basically 1 cup and 2 tablespoons if you're looking in there and you measure it. So 1 cup on the line, and then 2 tablespoons will equal your 1 1/8 cup. So you need that for your water. And then inside your water, you're gonna put your yeast, because you want that to bloom. So it's 1 package of yeast. Oh gosh, I just had it. 1 package of yeast, which if you're measuring it out, if you have a lot, that's 2 1/4 teaspoon. So that's if you buy a big amount, because it's kind of hard to find yeast right now. So you might have to buy like a whole jar. So I'm gonna put, because I'm doubling it, I'm putting 2 packages of yeast. And then in there, I'm gonna put sugar. It's a tablespoon for 1 bread loaf, but since I'm doubling it, I'm gonna do 2. And then a 1/2 teaspoon of salt. Salt right here. Okay. So in there, you're just gonna kind of mix that together, and then you're looking for that to bloom. So I'll show you what that looks like as soon as it starts to. So the water that I put in here was probably about 75 to 80 degrees. If your water's too cold, it's not gonna activate the yeast, and if your water's too hot, it's gonna kill it. So it needs to be like a medium temperature, like warm to the touch, but not too hot. So I'm just gonna let it bloom. I'll put it right there so you can kind of see it. And then I'm gonna start measuring out some flour. Okay, so the recipe, when I'm looking at it, it says 2 3/4 to 3 1/4 cup of flour. So you're not gonna wanna start out with all of that though, because you start out with a little bit and then you incorporate more as you're kneading it. So I'm gonna start out with the 2 cups, because like I said, doubling it. But if I was just doing the 1 recipe, which the 1 recipe will make 4 large calzones. So if you have a family of 4, that's perfect for you. If you have more, then you'll want to double it as well. So 2 cups of flour to start out with. And then I'm just gonna wait for a minute for that yeast to bloom. I'm making a mess with the flour. And then also, so you have it ready, you're going to want margarine or butter. So it's a 1/8 of a cup for 1 recipe, so 2 tablespoons, doubling it, so I have 1/4. These are the cute little sticks. I don't know if you've seen them before, so they're like tiny, if you can tell. I like buying them this way because it's just in 1/4 cups instead of 1/2 cup, and then for everyday cooking, usually you don't use a ton of butter, so the little 1/4 cup sticks are great. I don't use them in the classroom because, you know, we use quite a bit of butter in there, but I'm going to pause it for a second while this yeast blooms. All right, so the yeast has bloomed. I'm not sure if you can really tell on the top, but it's kind of bubbly. So I'm not sure if you can tell that, but it definitely has a little bit of a bubble to it. You can really smell the yeast now, so it's ready. So I'm gonna put it in with that cup of flour. Like I said, mine is 2 because I'm doubling it. And then I'm just gonna start mixing it up. Okay, I'm also gonna put the butter in there. It should be softened. It doesn't need to be melted, but not straight out of the refrigerator either. So start mixing that together until it's incorporated. And then once you get that mixed together, the 1 cup of flour with your ingredients, then you can start adding your other flour to that. I'm not actually gonna use the KitchenAid mixer, I'm just using the bowl. I'm gonna do it by hand. So, all right, so at this point it says, continue adding flour until a soft dough forms. So it's from 1 to 3 and 3 1/4 cup of flour. I've already put in 1 cup. So I'm going to add an additional cup at a time. Because I'm doubling, I'm gonna put 2 cups. If you were just doing the 1, just put 1. Okay, mix that in. And you don't wanna dump this onto your table until it starts actually forming a dough. So once it starts forming a dough that you can work with your hands, then you're gonna actually dump it onto the table. Okay. So out of the 3 1/4 cup, I have basically 2 cups of flour. So I know I'm gonna need more. So I'm gonna go ahead and put another cup in there right now. Okay, because I'm doubling it, that would be kind of like in the original recipe, me just putting a 1/2 cup more. So that would mean that I would have 2 1/2 cups now, all right? So it's kind of forming a dough now, so I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna put it on my kitchen counter and start kneading it. Okay, so kneading, you're using the palm of your hand. Okay, so that butter isn't completely melted in there, but it should incorporate with the warmth of the water that was in there and my hand kneading it together. So it's still pretty sticky, but there is quite a bit of flour on my counter that I haven't incorporated yet. So you can see it sticking to my hands right now. So you know that the dough is not quite perfect when it's that sticky. So I'm gonna get some more flour in my cup. I'm gonna fill it up an entire cup full, and I'm just gonna kind of use it as I need it. So I'm gonna put a little bit in there of that cup, knead it, and then see if it's still sticky. If it is, then I'll add more. Hopefully you guys can see that dough good enough with my phone camera. I'm curious how much you guys have been cooking. Some of you have not really been very good at communicating with me. Make sure that you're please checking your teams, letting me know how you're doing. Worries me a little bit that I haven't heard from any of you guys. The first week I heard from everyone, but now it's kind of crickets. So keep in touch, please. All right, so still a tiny bit sticky, not bad though. I'm gonna do a little bit more flour. Probably be covered in flour when I'm done. I don't have aprons at home. Isn't that weird? I'm a culinary teacher and I have no aprons at home. I have them for the different holidays and I have a Broncos one, but they're all at school. So I was looking for one the other day and I'm like, I have no aprons to do demos at home. So just a little bit more. And with dough, you don't want to work it too much because if you overdevelop that gluten, it's going to be almost impossible to roll out to make your calzone dough. Okay, so at this point, now it's not too sticky anymore. I get all the way into the middle part. It's not feeling too sticky. So I think I've pretty much done the amount of flour that I want. So I'm just going to let this dough rise while I start on the other stuff that I'm going to be working on for my calzones. So I'm just going to put it back in that bowl and then I'm going to leave it alone. Okay, I'm going to clean this up. All right, so I am going to now start my sauce and my sausage. I'm cutting up a 1/2 of an onion because I need 1/4 of it for my sauce, and then a quarter of it for my sausage. So some goes into the meat, some goes into the sauce. So you want to mince that up just like how you would if you're cutting onion up when you're going to use ground beef. So I'm using ground sausage, same consistency as ground beef. So this is just kind of, you know, adding that flavor. If you don't like onions, you can scale back, but I definitely would say use it. Don't skip out on the onions completely, because I feel like this doesn't have a ton of ingredients in the meat anyway. So, I mean, you're gonna lack some flavor for sure. And it's not overpowering, so just use it. Okay, so I'm actually doubling, remember? So I'm gonna cut the other side really quick. I guess I could have mise en place this before I was doing the demo for you, but it goes pretty quick. Let's just hope I don't cry in front of all of you on my YouTube. My dogs are at my feet eating all of the onions that fall on the ground because I grabbed too small of a cutting board for my space. Okay, so like I said, half of the onion's gonna go with the meat, half of it's going to go with your sauce. So for the sauce, you wanna saute, or not really saute, you don't wanna cook them too much, but you wanna cook them till they're translucent before you put in the rest of your ingredients. So in your pan, you're gonna put a little bit of olive oil in there, and then you're gonna get it up to a medium heat. And then you're gonna put in your onions and your garlic. So the garlic, it says a half a clove, which I don't know why I haven't changed the recipe, because I never only use a half a clove of garlic. Like, that's just crazy to me. I love garlic, so why would I only use a half a clove? So I have like 3 cloves here. You can use however much you like. It completely depends on your liking. Just mince that up. That's gonna go with your spaghetti sauce, not with the meat. Okay, so there's my dogs getting all the onions. They're so silly. They like onions, carrots, watermelon is their favorite. So funny, just like my son. Okay, now I'm crying, which is weird because that's the garlic. Okay, and then in the other pan, so I've got, sorry guys, I have a saucepan for my sauce, and then I have a frying pan for my meat. So both of them I'm gonna put at a medium temperature. I'm not gonna put any olive oil in here because the meat is pretty fatty already because it's Italian sausage. So I'm just gonna leave that one without any oil. And I'm gonna put half of the onions in there and then the sausage. So when you're making this at home, you can pick spicy sausage, you can pick mild sausage, whatever you like. I'm doing just plain Italian sausage. I didn't want the spicy. I actually don't really like it very much when I do the spicy in calzones. So for the original recipe, you just need 2 links. So you would use 2 of these if you were making it for a family of 4, the recipe that I'll post for you. So since it is the link, you're gonna wanna cut the casing off. So just take your knife down the sausage and then peel the casing right off of it. So it just peels off like that. And then you're just gonna throw that away. I don't think I cut it down far enough. So that's gonna go in to your frying pan. So 2 of those with your onions and mushrooms. If I had mushrooms, I'd be putting those in there. I do not have mushrooms, so I'm not going to be. I do like it a lot with the mushrooms. And the funny thing is both my mom and my husband and my kids say they don't like mushrooms, but pretty much every time I put mushrooms in them and they have no idea. Because mushrooms kind of like tofu, where it just takes on the flavor of your other ingredients and they don't even know they're there. So, I mean, obviously if there's an allergy, don't do that, but otherwise, do it. I'm adding an extra link because I don't want to just waste it, so I'm just going to put it in there. But really, 2 links. For my doubled, it'd be 4. And then I'm going to do half of the onions in there. Maybe a little bit more. Okay. And then I'm gonna put the rest of my onions in the saucepan for the sauce to start getting those translucent cooked through. It will definitely change the flavor if you cook it too much and you brown it. So you don't want to cook it too much, okay? Okay, those onions got me all sniffly. Okay, so in your measuring cup, you're going to measure your tomato sauce. So I need 4 ounces of tomato sauce, me doubling it 8. And I like to do it all in one measuring cup because I feel like it saves me dishes. So I need that. And then I'm gonna need tomato paste, which you need 3 ounces. So that's half of one of these cans, these little ones. So I'm using the whole thing, obviously, because I'm doubling. Okay. A 1/4 of a cup of water. And you can just put that right in there too. I'm just gonna use, I have to use my dry measuring cup because my liquid ones are all being used. It's not like in the culinary class where I have endless supplies of equipment. So I put my water in there, and now I'm going to put all of my seasonings in there as well. So I've got, I need, a teaspoon of oregano. So doubling 2. And just put it right in there. Okay, half teaspoon of basil. And this is to taste. If you like one of these more than another, go for it, use it. It's totally your call. Okay, a 1/4 teaspoon of salt. So use a half. Ooh. Okay. A 1/4 teaspoon of sugar. Okay, and then what am I forgetting? Oh, the Worcestershire. However you say that, Worcestershire. You need a 1/4 of a teaspoon of that too. So for me, a half. Okay, and then the recipe calls for a bay leaf. I don't have a bay leaf, so I'm not gonna put the bay leaf in there. I'm gonna go ahead, go over, stir my onions. Okay. And then I'm going to make sure that that sausage is getting all ground up, so it's like ground beef basically. You'd put your mushrooms in there too if you have them right now. I just don't have any. So just keep cooking those until that, you want the meat to be completely done. You don't want to be putting raw meat, raw hamburger, raw sausage, anything like that into your calzones. You want it to be completely cooked before you put it in your raw dough. I'm going to show you how the dough is looking. So it's rising nicely. Feels nice and fluffy, so I'm happy with the dough. So I'm just going to keep cooking these onions until they're translucent, and then I'm going to put the rest of the sauce ingredients in there. Okay, so I'm ready to put my sauce in with the onions. The only thing I realized I forgot to put in there was Parmesan cheese. Where is it? So I need a tablespoon of Parmesan cheese, 2 tablespoons since I'm doubling. So I'm going to go ahead and put it right in there with the sauce. Okay, and then I'm going to put the sauce in with those onions and garlic. It smells really, really good. And then you're going to cook those ingredients together, your sauce, onions, garlic, you know, basically simmer it while you're getting the rest of the stuff in order. The meat is still cooking. If there's excess fat, make sure that you drain that as you go, or when you're done, because you don't want super fatty calzones. The thing I find with the cast iron is it's like, it pretty much cooks all that fat into the cast iron, because when I use this pan in comparison to like a Teflon pan, there's so much less grease to drain. It's probably not a good thing, but I guess I'm seasoning my pan, right? Okay, so I'm just gonna leave that be, and I'm gonna leave the sauce be on a lower temperature though, because just like spaghetti sauce, if you've ever made it before, if you've got that on a high heat, it's gonna explode all over your kitchen. Basically, it makes a big mess if you get that up too high and start simmering it all over the place. So the only thing is I'm going to scrape the side of my cup because there's a lot of seasonings left on there, but since I was holding my phone, I couldn't. Okay, so mix those up, and then my bread dough, I'm gonna go back to that now. Oh, actually, one more thing. Italian seasoning goes in with the meat. So you can go ahead and put that in there. I believe the recipe says like a teaspoon or two, I can't remember. I'm just putting more in there. You know there's already a lot of Italian seasonings that went in that sauce. But put that in there. Okay, now to the dough. All right, so my dough had time to rise. So I'm going to put it out on my table and separate it, the original recipe, into 4 equal parts. If you have a scale, you could do it that way to make sure they're completely even. I don't know how many of you guys have scales at home. I have a scale because I seem to be always going on a diet. So, you know, when you're on a diet, you have to weigh things. But I don't know if the normal person has a scale at home. Okay. I'm doing 8. I'm actually making these for my mom as well. She loves them. Still kind of sticky, so I actually should have left the flour out on my table. So that's what I'm doing for now. I'll get back to you in a few. All right, I'm gonna start rolling them out. So you need a little bit of flour on your surface. And then you can flour your rolling pin a little bit. If your dough is really, like if you've already overworked it a little bit too much, you're probably not going to want any more flour, but you'll know if it feels sticky at all, then you're gonna need flour. Otherwise, maybe not. Okay, you do not want to fill them with your ingredients yet. Get them all rolled out. So for 4 of them, it should be about this size, the dough. And then just put them on your sheet pan, the cookie sheet. Okay. Okay, I've got them all rolled out and on the pans.
Showed my face.
Those ones are to go, so I put them on paper plates. So now what I'm going to do is I don't really know where to set this. I don't know if you guys can see what I'm doing. I'm going to take the meat, but I'm going to add the sauce to it. So put the spaghetti sauce in there and then incorporate that all together. And then I'm going to split that up between all of the calzones. So, whoops, I made a mess on the counter. If you were trying to do some vegetarian ones, you could at that point, before you put it in the meat, just put the sauce on the bread. What am I trying to say? The dough. And then you could do your cheese or your vegan cheese or whatever, and then you could make it with a bunch of veggies in there and just leave the meat out. So just remember to do that at that point before you incorporate it. Okay, so now I'm going to put equal parts on all the calzones. Okay, so I've got them all equally portioned out with the meat, and then it's a cup of cheese, and then you separate that between them as well. Okay, and then at this point, you're going to just take them. You want to keep I don't know if you noticed, but I kept pretty much all of the stuff in the middle. I didn't spread it all out because if you do, it's not gonna look appealing when you close up the pocket. So it's kind of like a pizza pocket if you've never heard of a calzone. So then you fold it over and then you kind of, you make it look like a pie crust. Like you put the dough, it's called fluting. You can either put it over and kind of turn it with your 2 fingers and pinch it. You can use a fork and do it that way. However you like the look of it, just pinch it closed. But trying to keep that stuff kind of in the middle, because if you spread it all out, it's going to get like all over the sides and then it kind of turns your dough, you know, so it's looking red and it just doesn't look pretty. It doesn't look like the bread on the outside. So just pinch them. And then if you want to, you can take a little bit of like melted butter or olive oil. I just got my cabinet wide open here. And then put it on the top. Sorry, I didn't have this ready. With garlic powder is what I like. So you could take that, put a little bit of it on the top of your calzone, and then sprinkle it with garlic powder. Okay? And then you're gonna cook it at 375 for 15 to 20 minutes until they're browned. If you wanted your bread, if you're making the bread, or your calzones to have like a golden shiny look, you'd use an egg wash. To do that, you're just going to like act like you're gonna scramble up an egg and then brush that egg wash onto your bread. So the olive oil, yes, is going to make it with the, oh my goodness, garlic powder will make it look a little bit like that, but the egg wash is definitely what's gonna give it like that golden shiny look to the bread. So that is calzones for you. I hope you guys make them. If you do, please let me know what you think. Miss you guys.